This is your foundation. How to successfully grow your wedding business. Weddings Made Simple.
Okay, so let's go ahead and apply this to an actual clip. So if I jump over here to Resolve, so the stacking or the layering is really important. And this is where DaVinci Resolve really shines, because you may not want to really create 7 or 8 different layers of Lumetri or film convert. But what we can do is do that really easily here in Resolve using nodes. So let's go ahead and build out our node tree. Let's build 8 nodes for our 8-step process, and let's go ahead and give these names. We'll call this highlight and shadow recovery. We'll just high recovery. This next one is going to be our gamma correction. So this one will be balance. This one is saturation. This is exposure. This is our HSL. And finally, we have our film print emulation LUT and any global adjustments that we need to do. We need to do our gamma correction first, and this is really only necessary if we're shooting in a log profile. And so this is shot in a log profile, so what we can do is either we can do it the more manual way by using a color space transform effect. And so we'll input our color space. This was shot on Blackmagic Design Gen 4 color, and the input gamma was the film gamma here. But instead, so what you can do here in DaVinci Resolve is just change the color science to color managed, and now DaVinci will automatically turn that into a linear format in the Rec. 709 color space. Okay, so after that, we need to do our exposure, because remember, we're tackling the light first. We can't correct what we can't see. So let's go ahead and look at our waveforms. We'll do 2-up, and let's bring this up a little bit more. So why don't we just start, let's just add a little bit of a gamma adjustment. Okay, let's do that. Pull this back down. All right, and that's looking pretty good. All right, the next step is highlight or shadow recovery. In this case, we don't really have anything here that we need to control. This stuff here is really close to clipping, but it already clipped in camera, and there's not much that we can pull back from that. The only other thing here is maybe this little bit from her dress, which is right here on the scope. But again, I'm not sure we can actually control that. Looks like we're still in the park there. So after that, we need to do our balance, our color balance. And again, what we can do is we can use her dress as an anchor. We'll go to our balance node here. But instead of doing it kind of the manual way, why don't we punch in here a little bit. We'll just take our eyedropper tool and just select an area that should be white, and you can even see the RGB values there. We'll see that red is significantly lower than green and blue. And voila. Now it might be a little bit too warm, but what we can do is just kind of control that a little bit. And we're going to look at our scopes. If you remember, look for that white point there for the dress. It's looking pretty good already. Okay. Okay, now let's move on to our next step, which is saturation. It looks like we're already at a pretty good saturation level, but let's just go ahead and bump it up just a little bit and see what we can do, see what looks fake. We'll boost it up to about 57. So after that, now we're going to go ahead and add our film print emulation LUT. So we'll go to our FPE tab. We're going to search for film looks. Okay, so we're going to take the Kodak 2383 Rec. 709. We'll add that LUT to the current node. Looks like trash, right? Don't worry, we will control that. Okay, we'll go to our node key, and we'll just take the gain down by about 50 or 60%. Okay. And now it's still looking way too contrasty, and that's totally fine. So what we can do is take our contrast, and we'll just drag that back a little bit too far, and then bring it back. And now we have an accurate film print emulation clip. So let's do before and after, before and after. Now it looks like we're kind of losing some of the shadows in here a little bit, which is good because we have this highlight recovery node. And let's do this. Let's go to our HDR palette and just look at some of the regions that we can affect. We don't want to mess with our black point, but we can take our dark, we can raise that up a little bit. And let's go ahead and just lift that just a touch. We can start to see a little bit more data coming back there into his jacket. Okay, from here, we'll do our HSL adjustments. I'm looking at this here. I'm not sure there's really anything that we really need to do since the HSL is more of the creative stylizations. This is already looking really good. But maybe what I will do in this step is maybe just go back to our saturation and pull that back slightly. It's looking a little too saturated. Okay. All right, so we're not doing anything with HSL. We will get to HSL, and we'll talk about that more in depth. But for now, all we need to do is our global adjustment. So what is great to do in the global adjustment section is just to correct any white and black point issues that were caused from the film print emulation LUT. To remember, we want our white and black points to be neutral, and we can do kind of our creative stylizations more in the middle. Okay, so what we're going to do is use her hair as an anchor, just because I feel like I think his suit is supposed to be a little bit on the blue side. Resize this, add a crop to it. Okay, and from there we're seeing a little bit of color. Honestly, it's not too much, so I think we're pretty good. But what we could do is maybe just we'll go to our log wheels, take our shadow, just move it in the opposite direction of some of where this color is coming in. But honestly, it doesn't look like it's going to be that much to correct. Just making really subtle adjustments. Okay, and from there we'll go back out, and let's go ahead and move this onto a highlight portion for our white point. Let's take her dress. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll take our highlights, and I'm just going to drag away from this kind of orangish region that it's in. Just try to center that little blob right there in the middle. All right, take off this crop. There we go. Take off the sizing. There we go. I think, so a couple more just quick adjustments that we can make. I do want to make this image just pop a little bit more, so I'm going to go ahead into my, my curve and just make a really subtle pop just to boost that exposure. Remember, weddings are often, we want to err on the bright side as opposed to the dark side. And overall, I think we're looking pretty good. Let's look at a before and after. And the great news is that you have this grade, and you're able to apply this to a bunch of other clips that are filmed in this wedding, maybe in the same lighting space, and that'll be a really quick way for you to speed up your color process. In this case, I'm going to save this as a still in DaVinci, and now I will have that available to me for any other clips. I can just right-click on that and do Apply Grade.